everybody. So I'm trying something new. We're on StreamYard, and I can actually let you see me when we have a software class. Sometimes, just a second here, I'm trying to get my other computer set up too. There we go. So make sure you say something when you come in so that I know you can hear me okay. And then I can share my screen with you. So that's why I wanted to use StreamYard, because then I have a few more tools that I can make this a little bit more interesting to work with. It's easier for me to go from one thing to another. And Facebook doesn't have a lot of tools in their little producer thing. So anyway, so I can see your comments on my tablet as usual. So anyway, oh, Jackie's at her cabin. Yeah, I think I saw a picture of that, Jackie. You were heading up there. So how is everybody this evening? Oh, I got to look at the comments here. I can see them coming through. All right, we'll turn the banner off. I can turn that off. And then we'll switch over to the screen here in a minute. Hello, everybody. It's kind of a dreary evening. It got kind of cloudy this afternoon. Are we supposed to have rain? Is it tomorrow? I think they said maybe tomorrow. I need to go look. I didn't watch the news today, so. But I have been, so for those of you who are patiently or impatiently waiting, I have been working on the May Your Days Be Merry and Bright quilt. I am working on the instructions. They're just about done, I promise. The quilt is done. The 6 videos are done. So I am working on the finishing up the instructions. I need to get another picture. So working on that. And slowly but surely, takes me a little bit to get all that stuff done. So how is everybody this evening? It's been kind of a nice day. I've just worked all day. I love sitting in my sewing room and working. I worked on class for next week this morning. So, all right. So this is what we're going to make tonight. So this way I can show it to you. See, I don't have to just show you a picture. So this is what we're going to make. Now, you don't have to make it on one of these little hangings. I just love this little frame, and I like to hang this up. And there's a little shelf. I don't know if you can see. There's a little shelf behind me here on my wall, and I set it up there, and I like to put these in it. So that's what I made mine into. But you could make this just into a cute, you could make it into a mug rug, you could make it into just put it on a shirt, anything you want. But what this is, it's an SVG file. So I found an SVG file, and I wanted to show you all the different things that you could do with the same SVG. So we made all kinds of different stuff with each piece of it. So like this is an applique, and then the purple's an applique, and then I did some fills, and I made some letters. So there's all kinds of different stuff. Okay. So this was a free SVG. Now, remember, if you didn't get the file, if you go to the group, it's on the Dropbox under If the Shoe Fits. Okay. So then you can get the file for this. There's also a PES file on there for people who just want to sew it out. And then there's also the C2S file of the spring. I think I put in there so that we could make this. We wouldn't have to do all of the digitizing for this whole little wall hanging. So okay, all right. So I'm gonna see how I do here with the sharing of the screen. So hopefully, wish me luck here. So I have to push a couple buttons and get this going. So I have to hit share. Let me get this going. Share my screen. Okay. And then I'm going to share. Okay. So if you give me a second, I'll minimize this. So you should be seeing in a minute, you should see my screen. And so I'm going to change that so you don't see me. You don't need to see me. You just need to see my screen. Just a second. Let me get that up here, because there's another option. There we go. You don't need to see me. Okay, how about that? Now you can just see my screen. Is that good? So you should be able to see the screen here. There we go. Woohoo. Okay, so I think you can see my screen. All right. So what we're going to do is the first thing we need to do is just start our design. So I have my software open, and of course, you know, the Today screen opens up, and I need to create a new design. So I'm just going to create a new design. I'm going to pull this up a little bit so that that little thing at the bottom is not so much in the way. Okay. And whoops, second here. I like to leave it. Whoop. Sorry, I minimized it by accident. There we go. I like to make it a little smaller so that that thing doesn't get in the way of the colors on the bottom. Pull it up a little bit. There we go. Okay. So the first thing we did, created a new design. Then we're going to right click. I'm just going to right click on the ruler bar up here at the top. And I'm just going to make sure that I'm in inches, which I am. And I'm going to go down to grid settings here. And I'd like my grid settings to be 1 inch. It's not real necessary for this class, but I like to have the grid up. It kind of helps. So I have it at 1 inch already. So you just type that in both of these squares here. Okay, whoops, stuff I can't type. Let's try okay. All right. Then what I want to do, since I made my little design out of the Welcome Spring, that's why I included it in the folder. I'm just going to go open that C2S file of Welcome Spring. So I'm just going to go click the little open button, and hopefully I have it on my desktop here. I think I stuck it in there. Yep. So here's Welcome Spring, and it's the C2S file. And I'm just going to click open and bring it up on the screen. Okay. So most, part of this, we don't have to redigitize it again. And we did this with the little America the Beautiful design that we did before. So this probably looks similar to that. And it's nice because you can make a lot of stuff out of, you don't have to start completely over. Okay. Just a second here. I got to get this back down. Okay. So over here in my sequence view, okay, I want the placement line. That's my first step to stay. And the tack down line and the second tack down line. I want my quilting to stay, and I want my decorative outline to stay. But the rest of it here, from step 6 through 13, and I'm just going to click the first one, click my shift key, and click through 13. I want the last one to stay in there because that's going to be our last sewing around the outside edge. I just selected all those things together, and then I'm just going to delete those and get them out of there. So that way we have all of that back in here. Okay. Second here, sometimes this little thing likes to move and jump out of my software. So I may just second here. Sometimes I just have to close the software and make it go away. The little sequence view, if you click just right on it, it like pops out, and then I never can get it in right. So I'm just going to start over. Sorry, guys. Because it did that again. So right down here, sometimes I have to figure out there's a combination of keys. Sometimes I click and it did it tonight, of course. So we'll just open that design again. It'll just take a second. I'll show you again. Then I'm going to go over here to my sequence view. I'm just going to pull it up so you can see. And then we're going to keep those first 5 items and start with item 6. Hold the shift key down and then go down to 13, I believe is what, 13. And then I'm just going to delete those items. I did keep the last outline at the bottom because that was what sewed my back on. So I do need that. Okay. And I decided I wanted things to be a little different than the original one. So I decided to use a different motif border. So I'm going to change the motif border. So in other words, there was our outlines, here's the, a placement line, a couple of tack down lines, the quilting, and then it was that pretty decorative border. And I would like that to be something different. So pull this back down again so you can see. Pull this back down. Okay. So I want that to be, right now it's a motif stitch and it's number 147. And I like that kind of that stitch, but I wanted it to be a little puffier. So I decided to use candle wicking. So it's still a motif, but if I go down and click on the pattern button and click down towards the bottom, there's a whole bunch of there's 3 different candle wicking options here. And I think I chose number 1. So it's the first one here. And then I wanted my pattern length to be 5, which I think is the default setting. So I think that will be good. So we'll go ahead and then click apply. So that changed my decorative outline just a little bit. It's going to be more dimensional. It's not as flat looking on the you can't really probably see it with the on the screen, but it does look it's a little more dimensional in the stitch out. Okay. So at this point, I need to bring in my SVG file because that little if the shoe fits was an SVG file. So to do that, an SVG file is artwork. And so I just need to go up to File, and I need to import artwork. And there's different types of artwork that you can use. These are all different ones. Like I can bring in an FCM. So like a lot of us have scan and cuts, and we can use a scan and cut. The SVG files are very common. Okay. And then, there's EPS, EMF, WMF, DXF. These are all cutting files. So those are all files that I can, and then AI. A lot of people use Adobe Illustrator. So you can bring in an AI file and make a design right out of that. So it's pretty cool. This program, Perfect Embroidery Pro, has, quite a lot of options available. So I'm just going to go find my SVG, and it is still in that same folder where I got my C2S file. So I'm just going to go click on it. If the shoe fits, here it is. And I'm going to click open. All right. So there's my little design, and it's pretty big. Obviously it's too big for my, if I go look at the design here, and the artwork, it might tell me how big it is. Oh, transform, here we go. It's about 11 by 11, so it's obviously a little too big for this. So we're just going to resize it to fit within the design. I'm just going to grab the corner here, and I'm just going to pull it down and see, I want it to fit inside this little square. And we may have to resize a little bit more later. It's still kind of big, so let's just bring it in a little bit more. So I didn't have a particular size that I made this. I would like to center it in that little area. So I'm going to go ahead and right click on my ruler bar and center the origin so that the little shoe and the, the whole thing is centered. So I'm sure that all the rest of it is too. Let me just check the rest of it here. See if everything's centered. It looks like it is. Yep, looks like everything's centered. Okay. So there's my little SVG file. So that's just a cut file. That is artwork. It's not anything to do with stitches. It won't stitch. So if I go down here, on my sequence view and start looking at this, so like here's the black shoe, and here's the little, the inset up there, and here's the everything. If I look under there, it's going to say artwork on it. Okay. So now we need to make it into stitches. Okay. So I want to start with the big black part of the shoe. And I wanted that to be an applique. And I sewed mine out, by the way. I sewed mine out. Oh, hi, Lisa. People are coming in. Hi, Jan. You finally made it. I wanted to make mine out of glitter vinyl. I thought it needed to be glitter vinyl. So we're going to click on the black shoe, which is this one right here. Okay. And all I have to do to make it into an applique, because I want it to be an applique, all I have to do is go over here, right click on it, convert to an applique. And look, it's an applique. So I'm going to turn the page here. I've got some little notes I'm reading off of. And I want to change a few things up here, you know, for my applique. I want my width of my applique. I want it to be a satin stitch. That's what I want. And I want it to be 3.5 millimeters wide. That's good. It's already there. I'd like the stitch length. That means it's the length of like the placement line and the tack down line stuff to be a little shorter. I'm going to make it 2.5 inches. I want it to inset. In other words, I like to inset my stitches a little bit more onto the fabric instead of like 50% means it's half off the fabric and half on. I always kind of nudge mine in a little bit so that it catches the fabric better. So I'm going to do 60 in the inset. And then I'm just going to click apply. I think I'm happy with that. I also wanted to have a placement line and a tack down line. Now there are no holes to adjust this time, so we don't need to click adjust holes. So we're just going to click apply. Okay, so we have an applique. That was easy, wasn't it? We just took that little artwork, made it into an applique. Basically one click. Okay, now I want to make this shoe insert, the little like up the front, it'd be sort of like the tongue of the shoe probably. This purple part, I'm going to click on that over here. It's the second part of the shoe or the artwork. I'm going to right click on that, but because the one thing I want, see how the holes are in there? Let me turn off a few things. You know, you can turn things off. Did you know that? You can turn stuff off by clicking the little eyeballs over here in the, I'll just turn a few things off so we can see. There we go. Get that little outline and stuff turned off just so we have a cleaner screen. It's nice. Sometimes you just need to turn stuff off so you can see the stuff on top. But this, you can see there's holes in here. And this is artwork. So in other words, there's actually been circles on top that have been combined together. So what I want to do is I'm going to click on that purple part, and I want the round circles to actually be something different than the rest of it. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to, right click, and I'm going to break this apart so that the round circles are separate from the rest of the tongue or the insert part. Okay. So now when you look at this over here, see, I've got, you know, the top part, and then look at all the little, there's all the little holes. See how I'm clicking on those? So I broke them all apart. They had been combined together. Okay. So there's all the little holes. And then the bottom one is actually the full tongue part. Okay. So I want to select the circles first. So let's select the circles first. And they were the first part. So I'm going to go get all of the circles. I'm holding my control key down, and I'm going to go get all the circles. They kind of show up on the screen as I get them selected here. Okay. So there's all the little circles, and I want to right click on them, and I'm going to make them into, I'm going to convert to, and I'm going to make them a complex fill. Okay. And then I'm just going to use this default one that's called tatami. It's a nice, smooth fill. So that's good. And then I want to change the color of those. I'd like them to be black. So I'm just going to go click on the black. We'll deal with the colors here in a little bit, but I want to make it black so I can see that I've got them separate. Okay. So there is my shoe. I made the applique here. Now, the one thing I noticed is that I can't see my little holes very well because they're on top of the other part, but we're going to get rid of this in a minute, so you'll be able to see it. but I want to make, they're going to sew after I do an applique. So we're going to do another applique. So we'll move some stuff around here in a minute too. Okay, so I've got those black. So my little holes are black and they're all little complex fills. Now I need to get a hold of that purple part. So I'm going to go over here in my sequence view and I'm going to grab that purple part right here. And I'm going to make this an applique, but we're going to do this more in a manual manner because I don't want to satin stitch the whole thing. I do need some placement lines and a tack down line to hold my, I put glitter vinyl on that also. But I don't need satin stitches around the outside because remember the shoe has a satin stitch all the way around. So we're going to do this manually. So this is the way I learned to do a lot of applique, was just like I'm going to do this one. So I'm going to convert this one first, this purple. I'm going to right click. I'm going to convert it to, I'm just going to convert it to a run. Okay, so now you can see the my little eyelets here. Okay, so that is now a run. And let's go up here and look at the run. Oops, second here. I'm going to make sure I got it selected properly. Okay, so we're going to look up here at the run. And I want it to be a standard, and that's fine. And I want the stitch length to be 2.5. So we're going to change that to 2.5. And we're going to click apply. Okay, so that is going to be the placement line for that little applique. Okay, and now I need also a tack down line. So I'm just going to go up here. I've got it selected still. I'm going to go up here and I'm going to copy it and I'm going to paste it. So now if you look over here where that was, I have 2 lines. I would like the second one though, make sure my second one's selected. I would like it to be a 2-ply because I want it to go around twice. And I'm going to leave the length at the same. And then I am going to apply again. Okay. Now this could be, we'll change some colors here in a little bit. If it makes it easier for you to know where you're at right now, sometimes it's just easier to change the color. So I'm just going to right click on any color just so that my placement line and my tack down line right here and right here are 2 different colors. Okay, so that way that kind of helps me. But in order to get my last part, I just want the satin stitch to go along the inside edge here. And I have those lines to help me. So what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to go draw that in. So let's go ahead and make this a little bigger so you can see what I'm doing. Just going to kind of zoom in on that part. I'm going to go get my steel tool because I want it to be a satin stitch. So I'm going to get my steel tool, which is right here. It looks like a backwards S that looks like a zigzag stitch. So I'm going to grab that. I'd like my width to be 3.5 because that's what we made the width of our satin stitch before. Want the inset to be 60% because remember that's what we did with the other one. And I'm going to click apply before I start drawing. Then it's all ready to go. And then I'm just going to draw with my tool. Doesn't matter. I think I'll start at the top. So I'm going to start up here. And then you might need to hold your control key down so that it is curved. Okay, so I'm going to hold my control key down and I'm just going to kind of follow that placement line that we have there and go around and stop kind of, underneath the other satin stitch and right click. And there is our satin stitch. Now I might have my top one a little high, so I'm going to get my little shape tool and just pull this down a little bit. I think I got just a little high, so it might show a little bit. So let's pull it down a little bit and hit enter on the keyboard. There we go. That looks better. Okay. So that looks good. So that's going to be then the cover stitch for the inside, that tongue area. And it's going to be, and I'm going to make it purple. Let's just make it purple so we know what color it's supposed to be. So we'll right click and make it purple. And we'll change all the colors here in a little bit, but that hopefully helps you. All right. All right, so if we're looking over here, I'm going to pull my sequence view up a little bit. See, I just did that again. I just moved it. I have a hard time with this. Sometimes it just likes to move around on me. So let's try to bring it back down again. Well, there we go. Okay. All right. So we need to rearrange a little bit. So we have to kind of think this through. Rearrange the sewing order. So I'm going to right click the shoe applique. I'm going to go find my shoe. Remember, we made that into an applique. So here's the black shoe, and we made it into an applique. But remember, when we're in a C2S file, you cannot see, it just says applique over here, right? And you can't see the placement line and the tack down line. But I may need to change the order of how these things are going to sew. So I need to see those right now. So in order to see those two items, so that there's three then, placement line, a tack down line, and an applique, I'm going to right click on that and I'm going to break that apart too. So break up the path. Now if I look at it, see, here's the first step. Here's the second step, placement line, tack down line, and then the satin stitch. So I did that first just so I have all of those showing for me. Okay. So just a second here. I'm going to turn my page. And remember when we had my little C2S file to begin with, that last step was the sewing line for the whole thing to sew the back on. So I'm going to drop that down to the bottom. So we're going to go down and we're going to pull that down to the bottom. Let's just get it down to the bottom. It's going to move it all the way down here. Oops, if I can get a hold of it. You can just grab it and pull it down like that. So I want that all the way at the bottom because I know that's going to be the last thing to sew. Okay. And I want my shoe, my full shoe, the placement line then to be this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, step number 6. So that's where I want it. So that's where it is now. And then I want step number 7, which it is, to be the tack down line. So that's our applique shoe, our big shoe. Okay. And then I would like the next step to be that insert, because we need to sew the applique insert or the tongue purple part on. So let's find that. So now we need to find that. You have to kind of think this through in your head. So I want the first applique placement line, then the tack down line, and then I'm going to move this one up. So here's my placement line for that. I'm going to pull it up and put it right underneath the other one. Whoops, it's the wrong color. So I'm just going to right click on any old color and make it doesn't matter what color it is. Okay, and then I want the tack down line, which is down here too. So we need to move it up. Okay. And put that one there. Okay. So now we've got the placement line for the big shoe, the tack down line for the shoe, the placement line for the tongue part, and the tack down line for the tongue part. So that's where I want that. Okay. Now we want the satin stitch for the tongue part to sew first before the other satin stitch. So we're going to get that one. Let's see. Sure I don't miss a step. Yep, the insert for the satin stitch. Insert satin stitch. So then I got to find that one. Now, where did it go? Oh, it must be hidden under something. Maybe we may need to change the color again. We'll look. Where's the black for the little eyelets? And where's the satin stitch? It's here somewhere. Oh, I found it. I think it's right. It's in here. Here it is. So let's see. Which one is it? It was a steel. Here it is. It's way at the bottom. Well, we need to move that up. So we need to move it up. So I'm going to grab it and start moving it up. Let's see. I want it to go a little further. After I'm getting closer, there it is. Let's move it all the way up to underneath the tack down line. Okay. So I think that's where I want it. So I've got my shoe placement, my shoe tack down line, my tongue placement, my tongue tack down line, and then the satin stitch that goes on the inside of it. So that's there. Okay. Now I want my shoe satin stitch, which it is. That's the next step. So that's good. We're where we need to be. And then I want the little holes for my eyelets. So then that's the next step. So good. I think we got it. So we've got our 2 placement lines, the shoe, placement tack down, and then the satin stitch and the satin stitch. So I think we got that where we want. Oops. So we need to, let's minimize those to get some of that out of the way so we can see. Okay, so then there's the other one. There's the eyelets. Okay, so now we've got the appliquing stuff done. So now we need to go and work on the letters. Okay, so let me see if I can make this fit a little bit better so you can see the letters. So here's the if the shoe fits. Those are still our work. Okay, so let's convert if the to stitches. So this is the words if the. All right, let's see. Where is that one? That's right here, I think. Oh, there it is. So it's the next one right after the eyelets. And I'm just going to right click. I've got them selected. Right click, and I'm going to convert them to satin. Convert to a satin. Okay. And let me make this bigger so you can see. It's amazing. If you have a good piece of artwork, it will, if you convert to a satin, it'll actually make a beautiful satin stitch letter. So there's my letters. And they're very nice satin stitch letters. You can see them a little bit better here. However, they look like they're a little bit close to the shoe now. So now we need to do a little moving. So I'm just going to select them. And I'm just going to take my mouse and I'm just going to pull them up a little bit, so that they look a little bit, they're a little bit off the satin stitch. Make sure I didn't miss anything. Move over and up. Okay, so we might need to go, yeah, I moved it over. We might need to go over a little bit. I'm going to use my bump keys. You have to use control and then you use your little arrow keys. You can kind of move it around. I think that looks better. Okay, so I just needed to move it up away from the shoe a little bit. Okay. All right, so now we're ready to do the next word. So the next word is shoe. And this is a really cool font. I thought this was really cool. And I thought, oh, I hope it digitizes okay. And it does. So I'm going to go over here in my sequence view. And I'm going to make sure I get the whole word shoe. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to right click on it. And I'm going to convert to a satin. And look at those beautiful letters. And again, we're going to have to do the same thing. We're going to have to do a little moving. Let me bring this down so you can see it a little bit better. Okay, we're going to have to move it over. So I'm just going to take my control key and I'm going to bump this over a little bit with my arrow keys. So since we added the stitches, you know, we had to move them around a little bit. So it looks pretty good. What do you think of that? So if the shoe, so that's all satin stitches now. And then we have another word. I want the word fits. And, you know, I might need to move shoe up once I get fits done. So we'll see how it goes. So let's do the same thing with the word fits. So I'm going to go select that in my sequence view. I'm going to right click on it. Convert to a satin. And yeah, we're going to have to move things up. So let's see here. I think I'm going to need to move shoe up a little bit. So let's just kind of move that up a little bit. Maybe over again. And then let's go get the word fits. And do the same thing. I'm using my control keys and my arrow key. My control key and my arrow keys. Let's see. How's that look? Is that pretty good? Like that. I think that looks good. Okay, now let me get this a little closer so you can see the word fits also. And it also digitized very nicely. You can see that with the satin, it made it into nice satin letters. Not every word that's an artwork does this well. These were fairly slim letters. So if you get something that's really wide, sometimes it doesn't work as well, but this worked quite well. Okay. So is everybody with me so far? So this was all that same artwork. All we're doing is right-clicking and converting to whatever kind of stitch we want it to be. Isn't that cool how that worked? I mean, if you have good artwork like this, and a lot of people, they might bring you a piece of artwork that's like a Adobe Illustrator file or something like that. See how easy it is to make it into an embroidery design. I mean, we didn't have to do anything. Just right click and start making it into what we want. So it's pretty cool. All right. So let's see. We got all the letters done. Now we need to look at this, the hat and stuff over here. And I thought this was really cute, but I thought it was a little busy for as small as it was. So we're gonna change it a little bit. But I do like the stars. So I'm gonna choose these little stars here. And I got to find them in my sequence view. Let's see here. So these are all still artwork. Okay, so there's the hat and there's the stars. So let's go get all these stars. I'm going to hold my control key down and get all of them at the same time. There's a bunch of them. Okay, so I got all of those selected. And then what I want to do with the stars is I'm going to right click on them. And I'm going to convert to a complex fill. So we're going to make this a fill, complex fill. And then they're pretty close to the shoe, so we're going to have to kind of move them over. So I'm just going to take my control key and my little arrow key on my keyboard. Whoops, it's not working right now, so let's touch it. And then sometimes it will then. There we go. I'm going to move it over so that it's a little further away from the shoe. Looking on my sewn out sample to see where I put it. That looks pretty good. Okay. There's my little stars down the side. Okay. So that was pretty easy. We just converted it to a complex fill. Well, now this hat, I really like the hat, but it is a little busy with all those teeny tiny little stars in there. So the difference between, stitches and a cut file is that, that may not stitch out really nicely because it's so tiny, the detail. So what I decided to do is actually take the detail out of there, take all those little stars out. And then I decided to do that as a fill, but I made it a kind of a cool, like textured fill instead. Okay. So let's see, we need to get to that artwork and it's right here. So it's this one. So there's the hat. But for me to get rid of the stars, remember how we broke apart where the little eyelets are? We got to do the same thing with the hat. So I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to break apart. Okay. So now I've got all these little pieces of artwork over here. I want to get rid of all the stars. So we're going to have to go find all the stars. I'm just going to start clicking with my control key. And I'm going to keep going until I get down to, and I get all the stars. And I'm just going to delete them. And we'll just have the hat then. A second here. We're still going. Okay, let's see. There was a whole bunch of those little stars. So, all right. So that might be the hat. That's the hat. So we want to leave the hat. I'm just going to select those and hit delete on my keyboard. And now I've just got a hat. All right. And see here, there's the hat. And then we've got all the little stars down below it. Okay. Because we'd already made those into complex fills. Okay. So now I'm going to select my hat. I've got my hat selected. I'm going to right click on that. I'm going to convert to, and I think I want to convert that to a complex fill as well. But we're going to change the fill for this one. We're going to use, instead of a standard one is fine, but I'm going to use a different one. It's going to be called brick. And it's kind of a cool kind of textured fill. So I think I'm going to do that. And click apply. Whoops, second here. Let me pull the sequence view down. It's easier. My computer's very small. I apologize. So it's hard to. There we go. Okay. So I've got that as brick. And I don't know if you can see it too well on the screen. Let me bring it bigger. But it is kind of a cool textured pattern like that. I think you can see it there. Okay. But we also need to move the hat over. The hat's a little too close. So let me bring it back down to fit. And then I'm going to go get my selection tool and we'll just select the hat and we're going to bring it over so that it fits off the shoe. See where I put it. I'm looking at mine so I remember where I put it. There. Okay. What do you think of that? So I think what I need to do now, just so I know where everything is I'm going to go back and turn on that little outline that we made, you know, the little candle wicking. I want to make sure that nothing's too far, you know, I want to make sure everything's fitting in there. Okay. It looks pretty good. I want to make sure it's centered though. So let's do that real quick. And I'm just going to select those pieces of the shoe. Still got people coming in. Hi, everybody. This will be up so you can watch it later if you missed some. This is a fun little project. I really enjoyed doing this. Okay, so I'm just going to make sure I got all of those pieces selected. And then we might just center it quick. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to right click up on my ruler bar and go center origin. And I figured it needed to move over just a little bit because it was a little close. So it's still a little bit close. So I might need to bring it in just a little. I think I'm just going to bring the whole thing in a little bit, just a little bit, because I didn't really have a size that I made it. So, and then center origin again. Oh, that looks better. So that way it's not touching any of the pretty candle wicking. Okay, so what do you think? Well, you know, I kind of started looking at this. And I thought that hat looks kind of plain. It needs a hat band. So let's go ahead and make a hat band. And I'm just going to make the hat band with my steel tool, like we did with the satin for the tongue. So I'm going to get that steel tool again. I'm going to make it 3.5 millimeters wide. I'll have to scroll up here just a second. There we go. 3.5, that's good. 50% inset. Now this one I want it to be 50% because I want it to be half on one side and half on the other, and that's fine because it's not covering any fabric. And then I am going to just kind of draw a hat band. I just kind of drew it. You know, I'm not a very good drawer, so don't mind me. I'm just going to kind of draw it across the hat band here from one side to the other. Okay, and right click. Come on, there it goes. Right click to finish it. So there's our little hat band. Okay, now I want to, I'm not sure. Let's make it bigger. Where we want to put this. Okay, let's kind of look up. Got a little bit too big there. There we go. All right, so I'm going to kind of make sure that it's okay. And looks like I'm going to take my shape tool again. I need to bring this one side in a little bit. So I made it kind of big. And I like the shape tool because then I can adjust. So like this one could go out maybe just a little bit, just a little. Okay, I'm just moving the little nodes that I made. Whoops, well, I got a little too excited on that one. Let's undo. Let's see, maybe it is okay. Nope. There we go. Still looks like it's a little bit big. See if I can get back on there again. There we go. Yeah, I think it'll be okay. Boy, it insists on going out there. Something's goofy. Let me look at it. Sometimes I have to get really close. Because sometimes I get like a funny little, like a little curl or something. Oh yeah, see there's two little nodes here. See what I did? I've got two little nodes right here. how they're connected, and that's why it's doing this weirdo thing. This one here, I don't need. Every now and then I do that. I'll do some weird thing, and I must have clicked twice. Okay, so let's bring it back there and then up, and now hit enter. And see if that, now it's a little long, but I think it might be okay. So sometimes you just have to kind of see what you did. I've done all kinds of weird things with the software. Let's bring it in just a little bit. Okay, that looks better. All right, so what do you think? There's our hat band. Now, I don't really like the red, but we'll fix the colors here in a little bit, okay? I'm going to make that one green. We'll just kind of make it green for now. And then we're gonna change all the colors so that they are pretty Halloween colors here. Okay. So I think we're ready for color changing. What do you think? Let's bring this down so you can see the whole thing. To fit. So nobody's asked any questions. Have I bored everybody? Or is everybody watching intently? There's a bunch of you here. All right. So I think that looks pretty good, actually. You know, working with SVG files and these artwork files are actually pretty easy. So there you can do a lot of stuff with these. All right. So let's look at the colors now. So I'm going to bring my sequence view back up again so that you can see it. Watching. Everybody's watching. I'm getting some little thumbs ups now. Good. Okay. So you're not awake. You're all awake. Are you going to sew the band before the outside? Yes, but I'm going to move things around here in a minute. Okay. I'm going to move things here and around. That's what I'm going to do next. Okay. So we're going to change some colors. And I said the placement tack down lines, I can just leave them alone. You know, this is the first line. Remember what was for my little wall hanging. So the first line is the placement line. Second line is a tack down line, and third line, that's for the batting. And then the third line was a tack down line for the fabric. Okay. The fourth thing, I'm going to turn these back on again because remember we turned them off. So the next thing that sews here is going to be the stippling or the quilting. Okay. So I want my quilting to be white. So let's see. Right now the orange. It's orange. So I'm just going to take my square that's orange, left click on it, bring it up, and I'm going to change this to the Brother white. So I'm just going to go to Brother and I'm going to change it to 001 white. Okay. So there's the white. Okay. So that's my stippling. Now the border, which is this, our candle wicking, I wanted that to be orange. And I want it to be tangerine. So I'm going to do the same thing with that. I'm going to go down here to my number 5. And I'm just going to click on number 5. I left clicked on it. And I'm going to go up here to Brother Embroidery. And I'm going to find tangerine. I think that's the vermilion. Where's tangerine? There it is. So it's tangerine. We're going to make it 209 tangerine. All right, so there's the orange for that. Now I would like the insert, like, or the tongue, the shoe, the word shoe, the hat, and the stars to all be purple. Okay, so, and they can kind of sew, a lot of those can kind of sew at the same time. So I want the word shoe. So here's my shoe. And I think right now they're all this kind of funky color here. And I'm going to make them all 614. So let's make them all the same color first. So let's see. I want the word shoe. Okay. I'm going to go down here. I've got it selected. And I'm going to right click this time on 13. That's my purple I want. Okay. And then I'm going to go find the insert, the insert satin stitch. Or the tongue, whatever we want to call it. And I'm going to make it number 13. Okay. And then I want the hat and the stars. So we just need to go find the hat and the stars. I'm just going to try to make them all the same color. The hat and the stars. There's the hat and the stars. And then we'll make them number 13. Okay, so then they're all that purple, and it's purple number. I think it's 614 is my brother purple. Okay. And then I want my shoe satin stitch to be black. So let's see here. Do we have a black? Oh, here's 900 black. So I am gonna use that one and make it 900 black. So I right clicked on it, 900 black. And then I want the little buttons to be black. And those can actually all sew together. Okay, so there's the black. And they're all number 900 black right now. And then if the words if the and fits, I decided, and then this little hat band, I want them all to be lime green. So I'm going to pick my lime green. I don't know if I've got lime green or not. That's leaf green 3. Let's just take number 3 here. I'm going to left click on it first, and let's go find lime green in the brother embroidery, and then my lime green. I think that's it. Yep, 513. Okay, so one of my things is already that color. Let's see which one ended up that color then. Oh, my hat band. But then I want the words if the, and I'll make it the same color. I'm going to right click on it, make it the same color, if the, and then the word fits. I'm going to go to number 3 and right click on that. So that's green. Okay, those are all green. Okay. And then let's go down here to the very bottom. And if I hit this negative sign down here, it takes out all the colors that I'm not using. So sometimes that helps me see what I actually have left, because then I know where I'm at with the colors. Okay. So I'm kind of looking at this, and I want to make sure that it's going to sew the way I want it to sew. So, you know what? If I would move all of the, oh, this is still not the right color purple. Just a second here. I've got my purples messed up. I want this purple here. Number 7 needs to be brother number, where is it? 614, something like that. Let me see if I can find it. There we go, 614. For some reason it didn't take, but there we go. I think it's now the right one. All right, so what we can do, I don't want to have to change the colors so often in the machine. So right now, you know, it's going to do the outlines and all that, and then it's going to sew purple for the satin stitch, and then it's going to do the shoe satin stitch, and then it's going to do the green, and then it's going to go back to the purple. I don't want to have to do that. So let's move this around a little bit so that we just have to remember certain things have to sew before other things. But we can combine these colors up, believe it or not. So I am going to sew my purple. Okay. The purple can all sew at the same time. So but I have to have the satin stitch for the tongue before the satin stitch for the shoe. So let's move all the purple up there. So I'm just going to grab all the purples and move them up. So here's the, which one is this? This one is the, oh, this is the steel. That's right. Okay. That's right. Okay. And then down here is the hat and everything. So we can move all that up there because that it doesn't matter really where that sews. So right now then it'll do the placement line for the big shoe, tack down line, placement line for the, like the tongue, and then the tack down line. And then it's going to sew the steel stitch, or, you know, that satin stitch to cover up the raw edge of the tongue. And then it's going to sew shoe, and then it's going to sew the hat and all the stars. So that'd be good. Then all the purples together. So that's good. All right. So we're good there. All right. So we're good with that. Now let's look here and see what else can happen. So we got the purple together. And then maybe we can put the green together because, you know, the green hat band's down here and all the letters are together. So let's bring that hat band up here with the rest of the green. That looks good. So we got the if the and the fits word and then the little hat band. So then we got all the green together. Okay, so we got that. And then I think we had to have the satin stitch, you know, for the purple before the black satin stitch. Let's make sure all the black is right here. So that way we have the black satin stitch around the big shoe and then all of the little eyelets because, you know, the little eyelets need to sew after the fabric's on. So that should work okay. We can leave those there. That'll work fine. Okay, so then see what we did? See how we combined that all together. So, you know, we got the white for the stippling and then the orange for the little outline. And then we have some tack down lines again. So it doesn't really matter what color those are. I'm going to change that RGB. Artwork always comes in as an RGB. So it's like a red, green, blue. It's like a Pantone color. So I'm going to change that to one of the colors that's already in my design. It doesn't matter what color it is because I just need something to make the machine stop. So I'm just going to make it something that's already in here. And let's see. Then we got these two placement lines. And then here's all the purple. So that'd be good. And then here's all the black. And here's all the green. And then the outline at the bottom is the sewing line that sews the whole thing together. So see, now we got that condensed down so it's not near so big or not. You don't have to change the colors quite so many times. Okay. So I normally what I do with like placement lines and stuff, I just make it whatever color. And then I like to choose the same color as my satin stitch outline to do those. So that's up to you, of course, when you're sewing it, but that's what I usually do. Okay. So I think, let's see if there's any other colors we got rid of. I think, oh, we did. So now we're down to basically just the colors we need down there. Let's see. I think let's check it again to make sure everything is centered. So I'm just going to check the shoe part. I'm just going to click all the shoe parts here. Oops. Make sure we get them all. And then I'm going to go up here to right click and center origin. I don't think I moved anything, so it should pretty much be okay. That looks pretty good. Okay. And then I think the size looks good. You know, the shoe looks like it's going to be within our little candle wicking. So I think that'll be good. And then we removed the extra colors. So I think we're good there. Okay. So I think that looks pretty good. What do you think? You like the looks of it? This was such a fun project. I had so much fun doing this because I hadn't worked with SVGs for a long time and it was really fun. So yeah, I think we're ready. So what I did in the Dropbox, there is also a sewing instruction. So I gave you the PES file also for those of you who don't want to make it yourself. I gave you a PES file and then you can just sew it. I told you what you needed to use. I use glitter vinyl for the applique, but you don't have to. I like glitter vinyl. So yeah, so now at this point, we're ready to, I think we're done. So we just need to go up here to File, Save As. And of course, we're going to save it first as a C2S file. And I'm going to call it If the Shoe Fits. Okay. And I'm going to just save it on my desktop. So we're going to keep it as a C2S because we need that, you know, to go back in case we need to fix something. And then I want to save it in my embroidery format. So I'm going to go to File, Save As, and then I'm going to save it as a PES file. PES version 9. I'm going to put it on my desktop, If the Shoe Fits, and save that. So there we go. So now we're ready for sewing, you know, and I've got, like I said, I've got the instructions there for you to sew it. And I also put the PES file on there. And if you give me a second, I can actually bring this up and I can show you the little stitched out file again. Just a second here. I like this that I can go back and forth. It's been really nice. So I'm going to stop the sharing. And I just have to go back up, and hopefully you'll be able to see my face here in a minute. So here's the little shoe. And see, there's the back. I put some little Halloween fabric on it. Okay. And there's the little shoe. And I did that in glitter vinyl. I don't know, it's a little dark in here tonight. I'm sorry. I did it in glitter vinyl. And I think my background had, can't remember if I did the sparkly background or not. I think I have little sparkly background too. There's like little silver sparkles in there. And yeah, but it was really fun. That was a little fun project. I like to have something hanging in this seasonal. So I've been making different little things to put in it. Okay. So next week, we're going to start working on the September. We're going to start working on the September bench buddies, the Kimberbell bench buddies. I've been wanting to make these little pillows forever. And I just needed an excuse. So I had to make them a class. That's how I got to have an excuse to do this. So now I get to make my September bench buddies. So we're going to do them every month. We're going to do 2 of them a month through December. And the September ones are like so cute. I love the fall ones. So next week we'll do that on Sew Along with Jan. And then the next 2 weeks will be the bench buddies. We'll do the little rectangular one first, and then we'll do the square one. And they're real small. If you need the designs, I have them at the store. I have quite a few copies of it at the store, so you can order them on the website. And it's the September through December ones. It's the fall ones. Okay? So are there any questions? So hopefully, make sure you post your, if your shoe fits, make sure you post them. I'm anxious to see. And like I said, you don't have to make it into a wall hanging. You could just use it on something else. It's just a cute design. So I just wanted it in my little hanger because I wanted something to hang up in here. So, okay. All right. So it's kind of nice that I get to wave goodbye to everybody when we do a software class, because I normally don't get to. I like StreamYard because I can go back and forth. So, all right. So good night, everybody. And if you have any questions, let me know. Make sure you post everything on the website. Okay. I love to see them. So, all righty. Thank you. Good night, everybody.